we're sitting here in Othona in Essex, but I want to take you back to before any of this had even begun, to the inspiration behind your father's life, his vocations, and the principles upon which his idea, his vision for Othona was based.
Well, from his earliest childhood, he'd wanted to be a clergyman in the Church of England. I've got a diary of his when he was about 10, and his efforts to become a clergyman. And he spoke to various bishops who said, there, dear boy, go and join the church army. And he left school at 14, but this was this burning ambition to become a clergyman. So he did his matric at night school, and he went to King's College and did courses in Latin and Greek and Hebrew. And for some years he was a teacher, so he did all sorts of things, but all the time trying to get into theological college, and eventually he was accepted, which was a struggle, especially financially. And through a lot of his time at theological college, he was given jobs by the principal, who knew he didn't have much money, to work in various churches. So he got a lot of experience doing that. And it really truly was a vocation that he couldn't do any other, although he had a lot of other interests in medicine and science and other things like that. But to become in the church was his main vocation in life. But it was a very long, hard struggle. And then, of course, came the war soon after he'd been priested and was a curate at Spitalfields. And he went into the RAF. And he was appalled, long before that, at the divisions in the Christian faith. So many, the Roman Catholics wouldn't talk to the Anglicans, and the Free Churches wouldn't talk to the Roman Catholics. And he felt this was such a totally divisive thing, and that communion wasn't open to all, which should be the great unifying experience of Christianity. That, and also from his experience in Spitalfields, he felt that the church Christianity really wasn't relevant to so many people, let alone working classes. And because it was so relevant to him and vital to his existence, he felt he wanted to make it more available to people in the best way possible. And when he went into the RAF, there was they had to go on church parade and chaplain talks. This was, they had no choice. They had to do that as part of the training. So he opened what were called answer-back meetings, where the officers weren't allowed to come in uniform in case they inhibited the lower ranks, where they could ask questions of any sort. And what came up at that time was, why are the Christian churches so divided? Where is this Christian God when we are fighting other Christians? And what's the point? What's this all about? And during this time, he was at a training camp, so men and women came and went, but while they were there, a very deep sense of community was founded. And when they were leaving, they wanted an emblem that would sort of remind them of this particularly special time. And so the little cross of nails was devised, just 4 ordinary builder's nails welded together, small enough to go in a pocket so they could take it with them. And the hope was that after the war they would meet up again and start looking in more detail about Christianity and how they could really make the world a better place. And of course, after the war, the necessity for not only Christian unity, but to build bridges between the countries we'd been at war with, reconciliation, particularly with the Germans. And very early on, after Othona started, he wrote to a group of pastors inviting them over to come to Britain. There's a lot of very touching letters from these people being welcomed again in England, which of course was not a popular move. And the other area where he was very radical was that he insisted that anyone who loved the Lord Jesus, whatever particular brand of Christianity they belonged to, should be able to take communion, which at that time was quite rebellious, and he wasn't altogether popular with some of the powers that be because of that. But he felt it was fundamental to what he believed and how it should be. And so after the war he went searching for a place which wasn't too far from London, because there were lots of wonderful places like Glastonbury, but he felt it was too far from Metropolis where people could get to without too much trouble, but was also away from all the noise and bustle. And by a series of coincidences he discovered the chapel. By that time he had a living in Stystead, which was a country parish in Essex. And when he came down, it was the first day that the area had been sort of demined and was open to the public again, which seemed an incredible coincidence.